music's effect on depression, I found that music has the ability to reverse the physical impacts that depression has on the brain. I composed music inspired by my personal struggle with depression to overcome it. So scientists have found that depression actually physically alters the brain. And that's a very unfortunate thing, but there are ways to overcome that through various ways to trigger neurogenesis, such as music. Depression can be reversed. So what I did for my project was that I composed music for an orchestra and a violin soloist. I played the solo violin part, and the orchestra part is played as a backing track. The solo part uses many advanced violin techniques, and it's about 3.5 minutes long and just a single movement. And with this piece, I wanted to highlight my technical proficiency as a performer and also explore different ways to expand my skills as a composer as well. So some of the artistic choices that I used for this was I used many different parts to create the music. I have a violin soloist that I'm playing, and as well as a flute, oboe, bassoon, violin 1, violin 2, viola, cello, and bass section. And this creates a very full sound, and to combat this, I wanted to make a more busy violin part and very high violin part that contrasts with it. And I used the instruments flute, oboe, and bassoon because they, to me, have a very pleasant sound, and I think they blend very well with string instruments. And also, they use concert pitch, so instead of having to transpose everything like you would for French horn and clarinet, they all use concert pitch, so it's just less mind work for me. And I used the violin solo to highlight my abilities as a performer. I used many advanced techniques in my violin part, and some of them are playing very high notes, and it's taken me a lot of practice to get these notes in tune. And I have a lot of fast notes with very difficult rhythm. And I also use artificial harmonics. And so what a harmonic is, it means creating a note on the violin without fully pressing down on the fingerboard. So the violin has natural harmonics, and if you hover over where the octave is on a violin without pressing down on the note, you get a very pure sound. They have slightly different timbres, but you can create this sound also artificially with pressing down, so an artificial harmonic means that one finger is being pressed down while the other is hovering. So this creates a very high-pitched note with a very pure timbre. And I use many syncopated rhythms, and these rhythms are meant to be very free sounding and not necessarily exactly what I wrote down, because I want to be very spontaneous and free with what I'm playing. And I also use a lot of sustained notes, so I had to think about how I'm going to phrase and how I'm going to use vibrato. So this piece is about about depression. It's about what I researched. And this piece conveys a lot of my personal emotions about depression. And I use different musical techniques and elements to evoke the emotions of depression and anxiety. So for example, I used, the cliche minor key, that's sad. And I also used repetitive harmonic lines to represent the cyclical thoughts of anxiety. So you'll hear these different lines that repeat for a long time, but they stack up, and it's like when your mind keeps spinning and you can't stop it from thinking. And also I use a lot of very random sounding rhythms to represent how absurd and meaningless and hopeless that life can feel like sometimes, because these random notes are just how you think, and everything feels like it's just happening to you rather than something that's supposed to happen, if that makes sense. And also, every part is different, and there's a lot of parts where there's not much harmony between them to represent how isolated people with depression can feel. So, what aesthetics I use to compose this piece. So, I have been studying classical music on violin for about 6.5 years now, but more recently I've been studying jazz on electric and upright bass, and I've used both of these genres to create my own unique sound. So the orchestral part is mainly inspired by classical music, while the solo violin part is also mainly classical, but it uses jazz elements such as just very free and improvisation sound. And also another aesthetic choice that I made was using minimalism. So throughout it, it's very repetitive, but it slowly builds up with different elements. And also, but these different elements add up to create a very cacophonous sound. And so my process for this, I created many different first drafts, and I just threw them in the trash because I can have very high expectations for myself, and I just wanted to do something that felt very authentic to myself, which can be difficult to do. And often I would have too many ideas in a piece, but I wouldn't be able to place them together and connect them, because actually in music you want to have less ideas than you actually do, because then your thoughts can actually make sense to the listener. So I worked both in finale and MuseScore, but my final piece I created in MuseScore. And to create the video, I first I bought for free a sound library.
You download it.
So it has a better sound than regular MuseScore. And then I, with just Windows Movie Editor, I created that into a video where it has the full score and all the audio minus the violin solo part, which I'm playing. So how did this make me grow? Throughout this piece, I was just going through a hard time emotionally, and I just had to learn to always be doing things and starting over, even if I didn't feel like that's what I wanted to do. And also, I've never created any MIA projects outside of 6th grade, which I think I failed anyway. And also, I've never written for this many instruments. I think the most that I've written for before was only 4 instruments, and also, I've never written anything this long before. Even though 3.5 minutes may not seem like a very long time, to me it's a very long time. Okay, so what is my research paper about? So when I was trying to decide what I should make my research paper about, I thought about what is really important to me, and what is important to me is music and how I can express myself through music and how music can impact people. So everyone knows that music can affect them emotionally, at least on a short term, right? Unless you're deaf or you're just tone deaf, which I don't think you should be at this presentation if you are. Okay, never mind. So I wanted to know through research if music could impact people emotionally over a long period of time and change their mind. And my hypothesis was that music could change how people thought. And I had this hypothesis because through personal experience, I found that at the times when I felt the most dedicated and creative in music, that those were also the happiest times of my life. So I found that depression is a very widespread struggle in the US, and depression does cause a decrease in brain functioning, which over time can lead to a reduction in brain matter, which is not very fun sounding. But there are things that people can do to combat how depression affects their mind. So contrary to popular belief, you can regrow new brain cells throughout adulthood. And this is called neurogenesis. And doing various stimulating activities will trigger neurogenesis. And one of the most important and my personal favorite is music. So the connection between my research paper and the musical composition that I created was that I was just exploring how music affects me emotionally, but in just completely opposite ways. And I wanted to do this because I found that through my research that doing this will actually make me feel better, because everyone goes through hard days, but doing things like this will make their mind get really smart and happier. And also, this is a very effective way for me to express my feelings of depression in a way that other people can understand. So next I will play the video. So you can see all the parts are being displayed, and you'll hear all the parts. And I will play the violin solo. Okay.
So yeah, man, that was really amazing. I didn't think I was gonna like the music, but I really liked it a lot. So thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Thank you. Rhiannon.
I'm like extremely impressed with what you were able to accomplish. Cause like, you know, I had a kind of similar project making music, but like 3 minutes is a really long time when you're composing and trying to make your own music. So kudos for you for making it that complex with that many instruments and, you know, understanding how to do that. That was really cool. And the fact that you pushed yourself with making the video as well. I understand how difficult that can be, especially when you're not an MIA kid. So, really good job. Really proud of you.
Thank you so much. I've learned so much at VSAA. Like, I don't think I would have been able to create this product if I went to any other school. So, thank you. And thank you to my music teacher so much. Hui.
What made you decide to do because you did a lot of trills in there. So what was your, I guess, what was your decision for that?
Why did I use trills? It's really hard to say with music why you do certain choices, honestly. Like for me, a lot of the times I won't feel inspired at all, but it's still so important to create things anyway. So often I'll just do random things and then I'll just keep doing more random things until I find something that works. And I just thought that trills created a very beautiful sound and I thought it worked with the piece. So that's my answer. Mrs. Hochalter.
Yes, so Candace, that was remarkable, and I think you're remarkable. What is, so I assume that music will be a part of your life, yes, in the future. So tell us a little bit about how music will be a part of your life forever.
Well, I mean, to be honest, there's not really much that I like or am good at besides music, so I'm trying to figure out how I can make that as much of my life as possible, but I mean, next year I'm just going to go to Clark College and I'll play in as many groups as I can and take as many classes and meet as many other people, and then I'll see where that takes me. Emma.
Yeah. I just wanted to I just wanted to ask, like, throughout the experience of like this ended up being a 3.5-minute piece, but like you clearly put in like hours of time into this, and the amount of minutes of music that you actually created is much more than that. How did you choose through the trial and error process what did and didn't fit with the style of piece that you were going to have at the end?
I mean, yeah, like, there's so much that I could have done, and there's like, I wrote other things that did not do this at all, but like, I just wanted to, like, my other things weren't just going how I wanted them to go, so I just decided to start over completely, and I pretty much just used a single idea. So I first came up with the violin part that was like, and then I decided like, oh, how can I make that an entire song? So I just really used as few ideas as possible, and just try to make them longer. Yeah. Are you a singer?
Yes.
I can't sing very well, I'm sorry.
Who were some of the classical composers that inspired you?
I don't know. Like, I listen to a lot of very, like, old Baroque music, mostly. And, I mean, it's hard to say because I listen to a lot of music, but I feel like none of it really sounds like this. Like, I'll listen to some more, like, modern experimental music, like Ligeti, but that doesn't sound like this either. So, I don't know.
Keep doing it. Keep doing it.
Like,
You have a voice.
I just feel like all the music that I've studied over the years, which is mainly people from hundreds of years ago, have influenced me the most as a musician, but also more recently I've been more inspired by jazz musicians like Chick Corea and Jaco Pastorius, and I think that helped me, like especially at the beginning part, it's so random and spontaneous, and that's really what I like from jazz. I like that energy, so I'm trying to figure out how I can take that into my more classical background.
Thank you.
Ms. Walker.
Well, I have only had the pleasure of getting to know you this year, but in class, you are a leader. So many people look up to you, and you're so quirky and fun, and I've enjoyed getting to know you this year. And I just wanted to say I'm so proud of you for sharing a more vulnerable side of yourself. And even though I didn't recognize Candace as much in the music, I still heard you in it, and I agree that you have this really unique voice, and I'm really excited to see where you're going in the coming years. So I just wanted to share that I'm super proud of you.
Thank you so much. You are dismissed.
Comedian as well. A musical comedian.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, if we're out of questions, then take a few minutes, say what you would like to Candace, and then we, panel members, are going to head to room 202 and discuss further. Thank you for coming.
Argon.